Hi everybody, it's Bonkai922 here to bring you another review. Um, Before there were some complications, my internet went down, so I couldn't do it earlier. Um, Dusk Maiden of Amnesia, episode 9. Wow, this one was great. I think this one might have been better than last week's. I'm not saying a whole lot. It is saying a whole lot. Um, what happened basically? We get the beginning of the episode. We see Teichi. He's coming to school. You see Yuko-san. They're Teichi. The whole bit. This episode really surprised me. Like, holy shit! Like, this is gonna be good. Like the next weeks and the last two are gonna be huge. Huge episodes, just huge episodes. Okay, and they meet up, and she's got back her memory of Teichi, and everything seems fine. Um, Sorry. Everything seems fine, but then Kyrie's there, and also in this part, the beginning of the episode, she wants to hear him say "I love you" again, and he says it, but then Kyrie gets involved. And she's telling about, telling Teichi, I want to talk to you about something important. And when Kyria gets too close, boom, smack. Yuko smacks her. Okay. Very weird. Because usually you wouldn't see that because Yuko-san wouldn't have those kind of emotions. So then her and Teichi and Yuko-san, they go somewhere to talk and go to class. And, he's doing work and he's writing notes to her of what he wants to say to her because he's in class while she's in his lap. And he says, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you to her. And he hits in the test. And he's like, oh my God. What have you. Then later on, he has lunch with her. She's made this nice little bento box for him. And she's feeding him. Until Okanogi shows up. Okanogi's very annoying. Well, she's alright, but she's like the second girlfriend. She's like always bumping into Teichi, and she throws her bento box in the way of hers, and it falls the omelet that she was gonna feed him, and she's crying, and she starts crying and leaves, and then he gets up and he thinks Yuko-san. He's wondering why this is happening. Okay, already we got, jealousy, crying, being upset and crying. And then he goes to see her again, and she fell in the water. So she decides to get undressed and wipe herself off and takes like a shower, I guess. And he sees her naked, and she's embarrassed. Which is shocking because you figure, wait a minute, how can she be embarrassed about this? So she then, says, get out, you pervert, you pervert. And it's surprising because she's never had these emotions before. So later on, Kyrie's in the room, and everyone's in the room. She tells Okanogi about the ghost that's there, and she's like, hey, you guys, where's Yuko-san? And then she starts talking, Kyrie, about the shadow of Yuko. And this is when we get her bombshell. Yuko-san does not remember the things that they did earlier on in the episodes. She doesn't remember the confrontation with her shadow. So it gets kind of the point where you're like, holy shit. So moving right along, they investigate the Curse the Rock story, and Teichi's experienced this before with Yuko-san, but Yuko-san doesn't remember it. So it becomes like, okay, what's going on here? Getting kind of crazy. And then, you know, Teichi's wondering if is she ever going to be able to get her memories back completely and not have amnesia. So what ends on happening is Kirie's talking to him about it and saying that this is a problem, that she's always going to forget her memories and it's just not going to manifest. Then they go in to go home, and this is when another thing happens. She doesn't want to be alone, and he says goodbye to Yuko-san, Teichi, and they're on their way. They're leaving. They're leaving the school, and she tries to go after him. It's like one of those scenes where you know when you in like a show or you keep walking, and no matter how many miles, how much distance you travel, it always seems the same amount. So she's like trapped in that school. She can't leave Yuko-san. That's the point. And that's when get the introduction again of the shadow of Yuko-san. And then she's like saying you've brought onto me all the hatred, jealousy, grief, all these evil, negative emotions. And now she wants basically this side of her, and she's this side of her is grabbing her chest and everything, and is seemingly trying to put those emotions back into her. So this confrontation is very, very intense until Teichi shows up again. He realizes he was worried about her. He goes back to get her, and they start walking and getting the hell out of there. He's trying to avoid the shadow of Yuko-san until they get to a room in the school, and he puts her in there and tries to talk to her. And this shadow is basically saying, I am all the jealousy and anger and for every negative emotion, the jealousy that she brought onto me, so and so forth. And then she disappears, the shadow of Yuko-san, and she's going after her, and he runs, he tries to find her, and that's what she's doing. The shadow of Yuko-san is actually trying to insert herself back into Yuko-san, and gets to a point where it's like, uh-oh, it's not good. Teichi gets there before she's able to finish and grabs the dark Yuko-san, pushes her away. He sees flashbacks, a lot of flashbacks, memories of Yuko-san, of what happened. Now, I think what happened to her is very severe. It's like, holy shit. To a point where you're like, oh my god, how can that happen? So then Yuko-san and Teichi try to run away from her again. They go through the same thing that Yuko-san did when she was trying to leave. No matter how far they run to the front gate, it always seems out of reach. Until Dark Yuko-san is about to grab Yuko. And that's when Teichi gets and pushes her out of the way. But his head, he's planted right. He's just basically leaning on the Dark Yuko-san's chest. And that's when all of a sudden, everything goes white. And Teichi gets up. And guess what? He's inside Yuko-san during when she was alive. Oh, and then he's like, he can't believe it. And he sees Yuko-san there. So basically what's going to happen now, from what I've seen, and this episode definitely gets a 4 out of 5 in my opinion. 4 out of 5 across the rails, across the board. And it's just unbelievable. So now he's going to see all the memories of Yuko-san. This one I believe was called something else, but I'm actually going to call this review the Maiden of Malice. I'll call it Maiden of Malice. Next week's is going to be called. Let's see, can't really see it here. Damn. I think next week's is called. I forgot what it's called. I thought I saw what it was said. What was it called? Let me find out. But this was a great episode. Just holy shit, you know. So, just a great episode of this show, and it's looked like we're getting into the climax. Now let me just check. See, just checking. Yeah, this one was called Malice Maiden. The next one is going to be called Maiden of Defeat. So we're gonna get, I think, the nitty gritty, the fucking nitty gritty. This is gonna be awesome because this was episode, I believe, 9. Yeah, this was episode 9. Next week we're gonna get episode 10, and after that, it's only gonna be 2 more episodes of this show. Prepare yourselves, my friends. Prepare yourself. It's gonna get really sick. It's gonna get sick. It's gonna be pretty intense coming up. So look forward to that. But yeah, 4 out of 5. Good episode of Dusk Maiden of Amnesia. This show is everyone should be watching this show. No question. No question, no doubts, no questions about it. Watch this show. There's an OVA too. So that's something to look forward to as well. Okay, so this has been Bonkai 922. Good episode of Dusk Maiden of Amnesia. We'll see where we go from here. See you guys later.